U stands for understanding. James 1:19 says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this." So this is important. Paul's even emphasizing this, even among other scriptures that are there. Everyone, raise your hand if you're everyone. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. What a great principle to apply to your marriage relationship. Quick to listen and slow to speak. You see, here's the secret in regards to all you husbands trying to love your wives today. Small talk is a really, really big deal. Small talk is a really, really big deal. And they're wanting not just that you're hearing them, but that you're understanding, that you're sympathetic to them. And sometimes this requires a little thing called reflective listening. Reflective listening works like this. If I'm sitting for breakfast and I'm talking to my wife and she's talking about something that's going on with the kids or going on with her job or going on with a friend, that I'll actually say, "So what you're saying is," and I'll reflect back what she just said, not only the words that she used, but the emotion that she used. And then it's amazing what happens. She feels like I understand what's going on. And sometimes, many times actually, she'll say, "No, that's not what I'm saying at all." And she'll rephrase it until I finally get it. But just wanting to understand and responsive, reflective listening is so important. You see this in the most simplest way, like when you go to the new In-N-Out drive-thru and you order a double-double and fries and Coca-Cola. And they'll get on there and then say, "Okay, I've got your double-double burger," and they'll list out everything that you said, and fries and a Dr. Pepper, and you're like, "No, I don't want a Dr. Pepper, I want a Coca-Cola." They reflect it back. Whenever they don't do that, like sometimes at this Starbucks, like they did this morning, and you order a Starbucks, and they just say, "Okay," they tell you the price, and go ahead and drive through. Immediately, my heart goes, "Oh, they didn't get that right. It's going to be the wrong drink." And I think our wives want to know that we understand them. So let me give you some simple things that wives can do to understand, that you can do rather to help your wife know that you are trying to understand. You listen and repeat back what is said. You don't talk to fix her problems unless she specifically asks for a solution. That's an important one because I cut right to the solution. "Okay, here's what you do and here's what happens." She goes, "I don't want that. I know that. I just want somebody to care about what I'm going through." And so a good question to ask, and this sounds really hard, but you ask, "Now, is this a time where you just want me to listen and understand, or is this a time where you really want me to offer a solution?" You need that level of clarity in order to move forward. You try to identify with her feelings. You never dismiss her feelings, no matter how illogical they may seem to you. Right? You say, "I appreciate you sharing that with me." You see, what's happening is she's taking something so precious and she's sharing her heart, and she wants to know that you're treasuring that and caring about it. You apologize and admit when you're wrong. I know that's really hard. You see something that needs to be done and you do it without a lot of hassle. You express appreciation for all that she does. You pray with her and for her. Prayer is such an important part of a healthy marriage. They say that couples that pray together on a daily basis, well, their divorce rate is pretty much zero. That's how important it is. P stands for peacemaking. 1 Peter 3, verses 8 and 9, it talks about relationships, and he kind of finalizes his words there by saying this: "Finally, all of you be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil for evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, that you may inherit a blessing." Proverbs 15:15, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." I think one of the things that we have to realize is that when we look at that crazy cycle, you're at least 50% of that crazy cycle. And as long as you are reacting rather than responding, you're going to perpetuate that crazy cycle. And one person can break that. And guys, we can break that. We have incredible power to break that just by establishing peace, admitting when we're wrong, saying I'm sorry when we need to say that we're sorry. In fact, Paul sums it up this way in Ephesians chapter 5, our kind of target passage of Scripture. It says, he who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one hated their own body, but they feed and cared for their own body just as Christ does the church. I think what Paul's emphasizing here is that you and your wife, you're on the same team. You're connected. And if you win and your wife loses, you've both lost. If your wife wins and you lose, you've both lost. But seeking a win-win and navigating through some of that conflict and struggle is so important. Now, I don't think that healthy marriages necessarily have no conflict. In fact, I think conflict is necessary sometimes for us to be better. Like stones on a riverbed, you see how smooth they are because the water is causing them to rub up against other stones, and it smooths them, polishes them. In that way, same way, marriage and family relationships, although they're difficult, they're really God's way of smoothing out our rough edges. She'll feel at peace when you let her vent her frustrations and hurts and you don't become angry or closed off to her. I know that that's hard. A big part of that is just closing the cycle. You may feel disrespected, but closing the cycle and say, I'm going to love even when I feel disrespected. You admit that you're wrong and apologize by saying, I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? You understand her natural desire to negotiate, compromise, and defer, and you meet her halfway. You try to keep your relationship up to date and not just responding by unresolved issues by saying, let's just forget it, let's move on, because you can't move on. You need to resolve it. And a good principle in the Bible that's good for all relationships, including your family relationships, is don't let the sun go down while you're still angry. Keep those short accounts. You forgive her for any wrongs that she confesses. You never nurse bitterness, and always reassure her of your love. And you pray with each other after a hurtful time, and you resolve that spiritually. L stands for loyalty. Job said this in Job 31:31. It says, I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully after a young woman. Malachi 2:15, so be on your guard and do not be unfaithful to the wife of your youth. Loyalty is such a huge investment of love into your marriage relationship, knowing that love never quits. Love never fails, as it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It never fails. As part of the research of this sermon, I came across an incredible story of love and loyalty. Robertson McQuilkin, who actually wrote my hermeneutics textbook as I was going through college. His wife, very early on, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And at 57, he was at the pinnacle of his career. He was president of Concordia College. And he thought maybe I could navigate both. It started by his wife just simply repeating a story with another couple that was vacationing with them. And he's like, that's weird. She just said that story 5 minutes ago. But those lapses in memory kind of led them to go seek help, and they learned that she had Alzheimer's. And she wanted to be with him so desperately. He tried to hire a caretaker, but she would escape out of the house, and she would walk the mile back to Concordia College searching for him, desperately searching for him. And she would do it a number of times a day in different places. And one day, as he was getting her dressed and ready for bed, he took her shoes off and noticed that her feet were all bloody out of a desperate need to connect with him. At that time, he was faced with a hard decision. Even though he was well known at the pinnacle of his career, the president of a very prestigious college, he resigned. He said, I choose to be with my wife. She's been such a support for me for 40 years. how could I not be there for her? And so for the next 25 years, he loved and cared for his wife. 3 years after she was diagnosed, she no longer could recognize him. A few years later, she no longer could put words together. She could just say no, and sometimes no meant yes, and she'd say yes, and sometimes yes meant no. There's one sentence that she held on to the longest, and it was the sentence that said, I love you. And so he'd get up and he'd take care of her day in, day out. When she would smile at him, it was a good day, and he actually had a flag that he'd put out on the front of his house, and that was a sign to all of their friends and family that she smiled today. Today's a good day. And he had good days and bad days, and he wondered, why, God, why is this happening to us? And why did you take me out of the game? And he was walking his wife as she was in her wheelchair towards the end, and an inebriated, kind of homeless man walked by, and he saw that he was holding his wife's hand and saw that his wife was sick, and he said, I love that. That's good. That's good. And he didn't think about it too much, but Robinson finally went home, and he realized that God used that inebriated man to speak something to his heart. And he recognized it was God saying, I love that. That's good. And even though his wife didn't recognize him, especially towards the end, the last words she ever said as she woke up early in the morning, she said, love, love, love. He went down and hugged her and said, you do love me, don't you? The only thing she could say is, I'm nice. So for 25 years, he took care of his wife and loved her and cared about her and supported her. And he said it wasn't out of guilt, it wasn't a drudgery, it was a joy because I love her. And these stories are something that resonate, I think, in all of our heart because it means loyalty, it means connected. Even when I feel disrespected, even when I'm not getting anything back, I'm gonna love my wife as Christ loved me. Robertson said that his wife taught him so much about the love of Jesus. He reflected on it and he says, how many times are you pouring your love out to us and laying your life down, and we're just going through our day completely ignorant of the fact of everything that you've done? Loyalty is important. Loyalty means that you speak highly of her. You're involved in things. You help her make decisions. You don't correct her in front of the children. You don't look lustfully at other women. You make her and your marriage a priority. You're never critical of her or your children in front of others. You include her in social gatherings. You tell the kids, don't speak to your mother that way. You honor her and respect her. You speak positively to her. Finally, E is esteem. Proverbs 31 talks about this. Verse 28, her children arise and call her blessed. And her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. There's something in the heart of every woman that wants that esteem, that honor, to be presented as a spotless bride, pure and holy. It means that you say, I'm proud of you and how you handled that. I speak to others highly in front of others. You open the door for her. You try something new. You notice something different about her hair and clothes. That's a big one. You're physically affectionate with her in public. You value her opinion in all the gray areas as not wrong, but just different and still valid. Couple. Guys, we have this tremendous opportunity today on Valentine's Day to love our wives. And so I pray that you have something special planned and you've written a card and you're taking that opportunity to couple with your wife, to be close, to be open, to be understanding, to be a peacemaker, to be loyal, and to hold her in high esteem. On your way out today, ladies, we have a special gift. We want to give every single one of you a chocolate rose because we esteem you so high and we just celebrate all that you are and all the sacrifices that you made.